الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وبعد. Among the Sahaba, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha is perhaps the one person who narrates the largest number of ahadith after Abu Hurairah. She's very prolific, thousands of ahadith. In fact, more than 2,000 ahadith are narrated from Aisha radiallahu anha. And when you study the types of ahadith that she narrates, they're very unique. They are related to domestic issues. How did the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam sleep? How did he bathe? What would he do at his house? So on and so forth. This week we're talking about family relationships. One thing that is very fascinating in the relationship between Aisha radiallahu anha and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, despite his status as the greatest of Allah's creation and his status as somebody everyone revered, people rushed to get droplets from his wudu, rushed to touch his hair, to do so much with him. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came home, he let down his guard and was very flexible and comfortable with his spouse. If you look at the relationship between Aisha radiallahu anha and the Prophet ﷺ, you see such a beautiful example of spousal relationship. Generally, there's always during the beginning year or two when people just get married, there's a very strong, desire to be kind, courteous, understanding. But as the years pass by, that love and that flame begins to diminish. When you look at how Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam interacted with Aisha radiallahu anha, it was so beautiful. From the first moment until the final moment, he was the spark of love and compassion that is such a beautiful example for both husbands and wives. What is the example? I'll just mention two very quick examples. The first is when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam raced with Aisha radiallahu anha. During one of the battles, when the Prophet ﷺ was coming back, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Aisha, they had just gotten married, meaning it was just a few years into it. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And as the caravan went forward, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he's with Aisha radiallahu anha and he says, "Ya Aisha, let's race." And everybody's ahead, so it's only the Prophet ﷺ and his spouse radiallahu anha. And then they begin to race. And as they're racing, Aisha radiallahu anha goes so fast, she beats the Prophet ﷺ and gets to the end of the finish line. Years later, Nabi ﷺ sees Aisha radiallahu anha again during one of the ghazawat as they're traveling. He lets everybody go forward. And this time, Nabi ﷺ says, "Listen, you beat me that time, we're going to race again." And Nabi ﷺ is a bit older, but also Aisha radiallahu anha, she also got a bit older. So she said, "When I first got married, I was very light. And then after the years, I gained a bit of weight, so I wasn't as fast as I was before. So then when we started racing, this time we're racing shoulder to shoulder, and eventually Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam beats me. And I said to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, "You're lucky you beat me this time because I gained a bit of weight." SubhanAllah, the way Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was with his spouse is such a beautiful example. It wasn't, "Oh, we just got married, there's going to be a lot of compassion and understanding." Throughout the entire relationship, in fact, when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was passing away, he passed away on the lap of Aisha radiallahu anha as she was doing the miswak to him. And this is a two-way road. What's beautiful as when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam showed that compassion to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Aisha radiallahu anha reciprocated and was fully understanding of his circumstances. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was no ordinary husband, alayhi salam. He had so many responsibilities. He's going for ghazawat, he's doing da'wah, he doesn't get to spend as much time at home. And Aisha radiallahu anha understood and said, "This is the responsibilities of my husband and I'm going to be fully compassionate and understanding." When one party is able to invest in the relationship, the other party will have nothing else but compassion and they will always make those sacrifices. But from the relationship, we see this two-way road. I'm going to end with one last incident, and it's very beautiful. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say, Aisha radiallahu anha said, sometimes the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would wait for me to finish showering. Sometimes Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would wait for me to finish showering, and when I would come back, I would be warm, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be cold, so he would embrace me just so he can get some warmth from me. You see this constant idea. Sometimes we feel that relationships have to be platonic. They have to be very mundane. If I show some love and compassion, then this is not in line with Islam. No, this is part of the sunnah of Rasulullah. Yes, there's certain concepts of haya. We should have haya in the way we do things. Nobody is going to be be-haya and do things that are outside of the fold of Islam. Absolutely not. Within the confines of Islam, in our relationship with our spouses, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam raced with the Prophet, with Aisha radiallahu anha, and he was at least 60 years old. He wasn't 20 years old, he wasn't 30 years old, he was around 60 years old. It was only a few years before he passed away. He passed away at the age of 63, which means he was late 50s, early 60s when he raced with Aisha radiallahu anha. And Aisha radiallahu anha was completely understanding. When we talk about relationships, I as an individual, as a wife, as a husband, as a son, as a father, I will have a particular relationship, but the sunnah will always be the backdrop against which I frame and I model my relationship with others. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to follow in the footsteps of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May we learn how to interact with each other in light of the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah, after the remaining sunan, we'll have our weekly hadith session. Everyone is humbly requested to join. Jazakumullahu khairan.